Oh hey, didn't see you there. Today I'll be juggling a few different economic concepts. Today I'll be comparing American soccer and European soccer. I'll be discussing the supply and demand for both. So first let me give you a few background knowledge on soccer. Soccer was first founded in 3000 BC by the Chinese. It started out as a very crude sport where there were even a few deaths occurring each game because people did not wear shin guards. They wore metal like shoes, and they would kick each other in the head repeatedly and deaths would occur. Modern day soccer, what you see on TV, was first founded by the British in 1863. That was when the FIFA, the Federation of International Football Association, formed. And then the first MLS game was played in 1963, so America was a lot farther behind Europe. Okay, so first I'll be discussing the demand for both types of soccer, American and European. So as you all know, obviously, soccer is not the most popular sport in America, but it is by far the most popular sport in Europe. Since soccer originated in Europe, it has always stuck around there and it didn't make the transition to America right away. That's why it's not as popular. Whereas, like, say, basketball is not as popular in Europe because it originated in Massachusetts. And so the demand for soccer in Europe is extremely higher because that is the only sport they play over there. The demand for soccer in America is not as much because we have sports like football, baseball, basketball, and all other kinds of sports. So a statistic for you is that in America, the MLS Cup, like the Super Bowl of soccer, had about 1,170,000 viewers. El Clasico, a game in Europe, in Spain, between Real Madrid and Barcelona, had over 500 million viewers worldwide. So as you can see, the demand for soccer in Europe is much higher than it is in America. The demand for soccer in both America and Europe could be shifted very easily. Because there's so many sports to play in America versus in Europe, the viewership is split between these different sports. And so if, say, like basketball and football were not around, there would be less sports to watch, so people would watch soccer more. So then the size of the population of the market would increase, thus changing the demand for soccer it would increase because there would not be as many sports to watch and people in America love to watch sports. The same could be said about Europe. If, say, basketball made a great jump over to Europe, or football, and then the viewership would be split between more sports, so then the demand for soccer would go down. And another way that demand could shift would be if more players like Ronaldo, Messi, Luis Suarez came to the MLS versus staying in Europe. The demand for European soccer is so high because all the great players are there, versus in the MLS there are not many players. The only good one is maybe Beckham or Landon Donovan, and they are both retired now. So the relationship between the two, if the players moved, would almost be an inverse one. If the players like Ronaldo and Messi started coming over, the demand would shift because the tastes and preferences of the viewers would change. Everybody likes to watch a good player play versus some nobodies that play in the MLS. And if Messi, like when Messi comes to play in the US, he always has a sold out crowd because he's such a popular player.
So as you can see, the red line represents our demand one line, the demand of US soccer as it is now. If it shifted by more players coming over or less sports being played in America, it would increase and change to the demand 2 line, which is the blue line. So this graph represents the demand for European soccer. The red line again represents the demand 1 line, and it is a pretty high line right now. And it could decrease if more players started leaving Europe for America, or if more sports like basketball and football became popular in Europe, and the demand would decrease to the demand 2 line, which is the blue line.
So now we'll be discussing the supply of American soccer versus European soccer. So in America, there's only one league, the MLS. There is college soccer and then obviously high school soccer, but there's only one league for a country that is very large. Over in Europe, in a country like Britain, which is very small compared to the US, they have one league but 4 different tiers of leagues. So basically there's like 4 leagues in one league. Many of you might know the Barclay Premier League or the BPL over in England has 4 different tiers, and there are many other leagues in Europe like La Liga in Spain, Bundesliga in Germany, and Serie A in Italy. So as you can see, in small countries there are multiple leagues with multiple different tiers because there are a lot more players that play soccer over there. The US does not have as many soccer players, but the supply could easily change for both. Say if more soccer players began playing in the US, we might be able to open up more leagues, and thus we'd be able to have a higher demand and a higher supply for soccer. So like I said, if players began leaving European leagues and becoming part of the American leagues, or if there were just less European players and more American players, the supply of soccer in both areas would change. This would be because of the resources. When the resources of the players change, they wouldn't be able to fill the leagues, and thus the supply would go down. And the same way in America, if more players started playing, which there has been a steady increase in players, both male and female players in the U.S., which is a great thing, the supply of American soccer would go up, and we maybe open a second tier to the MLS, or we just open up a new league altogether. So the supply of both American and European soccer could easily shift due to the resources, which would be the players.
This is the graph for the supply of American soccer. The supply line is low right now because there's not a whole lot of American soccer. There's only one league. But that would change if more players began playing soccer, or if more already existing players came from Europe over to America, and then the supply line would increase to the blue supply 2 line. This is the graph for the supply of European soccer, and the red line, supply 1 line, represents how it is now, which is pretty high. But that could easily decrease if less people started playing soccer when they were young over there, or more people started moving from European leagues to American leagues. So thus, the supply of the soccer in Europe would decrease to the supply 2 line, which is the blue line.